I'm Claire and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be about the fragrance brand Who is Elijah. I've bought this sample set from the brand and I just want to walk you through the 11 fragrances in this sample set and tell you what I think of the brand overall at the end of the video. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire Smith. I make videos all about fragrance. I talk about perfume science, perfume history, perfume psychology, and I also just make these straight perfume reviews as well. So if that kind of thing interests you and you haven't already done so, then please do consider subscribing and please also press the like button if you do enjoy this kind of video. So Who is Elijah started out in 2018. They're based in Sydney, Australia, and they market all of their fragrances as unisex, and they also are a vegan brand. So they currently have 15 fragrances on the market and their sample sets have a range of prices, which I don't really understand. But I got the 11 fragrance sample set, which retails for £35. There's also a 12 fragrance sample set that retails for £40. And then there's a 13 fragrance sample set that weirdly retails for £60. So also I looked on their website and it seems like they're having sales on a few of their fragrances. So I guess some of their fragrances might be being discontinued, but I'm not really sure. So now let's go through each of the fragrances in turn and I'll tell you my thoughts. So the first fragrance is called Rebel Rose. So this is a violet, leather and rose fragrance. This starts out quite sparkly and peppery. And then there's also a slightly muffled, slightly dirty feeling leather and also rose. The leather is initially muffled by some violet, but as this goes on, it becomes sweeter and the violet really amps up. The patchouli makes this feel slightly green and also makes the leather slightly suede-like. The dry down is much more a warm, chalky violet rather than a rose, but the rose is still present slightly, but really it's a slightly green feeling suede leather. I find this scent interesting because it's kind of got an almost feel of incense about it. It makes me think of, you know, when you buy incense to burn in your house, those sticks, it smells a bit like that at points, especially towards the end of the fragrance. When I looked at the notes of this one, I thought, oh, hang on, I've probably smelt this before. It's just going to be a standard rose leather oud fragrance, and it definitely isn't that. There's definitely a sweetness, there's definitely a bit of an incensey feel in the dry down, and there's definitely a transition. So yeah, I like this one, but I don't love it, is how I feel about Rebel Rose. So the next fragrance is called Wall Street, and this starts out with a lightly plasticky saffron, great start, with a pink feeling fresh raspberry and rose. Later on, the rose is sweeter, there's some incense, and there's also some woody oud. There's not really too much more to say about this one. I feel with this one there are lots of fragrances I could potentially compare this to, but I don't feel like this one is as good as any of the fragrances I might compare it to. It's a very familiar DNA, so I think the thing that really crosses my mind is things like Tuscan Leather by Tom Ford. I don't feel like it's as good as that fragrance, but I think if you wanted something sweeter than that fragrance, this would be a potential thing you could check out. This is really sweet and really strong, but I think the mild plasticky saffron in the beginning kind of kills this one a little bit for me. It does get better. It's almost nice, but not quite by the end for me. It's so close, but just no cigar. So yeah, I think this one is a no for me. So that's Wall Street. So the next fragrance is called Nomad. So this one is an entirely Baccarat Rouge 540 inspired DNA style fragrance. For me, this starts off with that mild plasticky saffron again with the fir, resin and the amber, but then it dries down into something I can only describe if you were a 90s kid. The smell of a new TV, an old school cathode ray tube TV, a big fat TV, straight out of the box, plasticky, that kind of smell. It's that along with a bit of a pine aspect. Personally, I feel like there are hundreds of dupes of Baccarat Rouge 540, much better than this one. I feel like it's not got the sweetness of something like Cloud to potentially save this. I think this one for me, again, is a no. So that's Wall Street. So the next fragrance is called Nightcap, and this opens with a really sweet pear drop-like pear note, along with violet leaf and a cool feeling cardamom. This initially smells quite green and quite sappy, but then it dries down and it becomes slightly woodier while still being green, along with the sparkly cardamom in the background. Later on, it's quite papery, but still quite fresh, but it's also green, a little woody, and even a little bit powdery or even chalky. This is a really odd fragrance to me. I would describe it as smelling quite sweet, but also quite artificial in the dry down. I'm clearly anosmic to points in this fragrance because there are points in the dry down where I really struggle to smell this. I think this fragrance gets compared to Santal 33, and I went into store to try that one, and I only tried it briefly, but to me, I wouldn't have said that this is as leathery feeling as Santal 33. So yeah, that's Nightcap. So the next fragrance is called Muse, and this one really is a bit of a mystery to me. So I think this is an ambroxan laden fragrance because I cannot smell most of this fragrance. So I'd describe this one as warm, slightly sweet and a little musky, but that's pretty much all I get from this one. I saw that this one was compared to Juliet Has a Gun, Not a Perfume, and I totally agree with that because I can't smell that one either. So yeah, Muse, a complete mystery to me, could be lovely, but I can't smell it. So the next fragrance in the range is called Eau. So this is a green sappy feeling bamboo and fig fragrance with a white feeling creamy coconut. It's really leafy smelling to begin with and really bright, but then quickly it becomes sweeter and even a little bit soapy and even a little bit woody. By the dry down, the coconut is much more subtle, but the soapiness and the woodiness are a little bit more prominent. So this one, the opening to me is really nice. I really like the opening, but the dry down was a little bit disappointing. It sort of got less interesting as it went along. I've seen this one compared to Philosikos by Diptyque. I would not compare those two fragrances. I've also seen this one compared to Debaser by DS and Durga. I haven't tried that fragrance, so I can't compare them. So that's O. So the next fragrance is called Morning After. This is a lightly spiced sandalwood fragrance with cardamom, a slightly chalky feeling violet, and also a slightly soft leather feeling to it. This actually reminded me of a fragrance I tried not long ago, which was Rahacia's Chapter 1, which is itself compared to Le Labo's Santal 33. I can't say that I like this one as much as I like Chapter 1 from Rahacia. I think the dry down here again was disappointing compared with the opening. As it dried down, it got more leathery and there was some warm woodiness going on. It actually made me think of a room with a leather sofa where somebody's been smoking a cigar, but they've also at the same time laid a brand new laminate wood floor. That's the picture I get in my head from this one. It just didn't appeal, so that's Morning After. So the next fragrance in the range is called Her, and this is really a citrus-based fragrance, but with green aspects to it. So this is a bitter, sweet citrus with grapefruit. The grapefruit is yellow and fresh, but it's tempered by some greener notes. Despite the grapefruit, it's still relatively sweet, and it's actually quite soft and even lemony at points. It's slightly floral, but it's more of like a soft green type of floral. As it dries down, it gets warmer, muskier and drier. In the far dry down, I kind of detect a bit of a spicy sandalwood. There's some kind of spicy dry wood in the far dry down. I found this fragrance really odd. In the opening, it made me think of a citrus-tinged fresh cucumber kind of smell. I see this one's compared to Le Labo Bergamot 22. I haven't tried that fragrance, so I can't compare them. So that's Her. So the next fragrance is called His/Her, and this is a strange fragrance. It makes me think of swimming pools somehow, but it actually doesn't have a chlorine type smell to it, but it definitely is slightly aquatic. It's got an almost cleaning product type of vibe to it, but a kind of texture from cardamom. The cardamom is fresh and green, but this also has a separate kind of mountain freshness to it. This fragrance really makes me think of shower gels in hotels. You know, when hotels are trying to make a unisex, universally appealing kind of fragrance for a shower gel, and they kind of make a very nondescript fragrance that doesn't really appeal to anybody. That's what this fragrance makes me think of, that kind of smell. This fragrance again goes woody and musky in the dry down. It has the same kind of dry down as other fragrances in this range, but it also has a slight fresher feel as well in the dry down. Again, I don't think this one's for me. I could see some similarities with Morning After. The only real difference with this one and Morning After is that this one's much fresher feeling. So that one is His/Her. So the next fragrance is called Haze, and I looked at the notes of this one and I thought, are they trying to dupe replicas by the fireplace? The notes here looked very much like, pretty much exactly like, By the Fireplace. Well, they might have intended it, but I don't really feel like it's coming off as By the Fireplace for me. This has a kind of caramelised, slightly burnt toffee smell in the opening, combined with a slight whiff of coffee. My guess from my recent reading is that they've used a furanone here. I've been reading about caramelized kind of coffee smells in fragrances, and I'm wondering whether it is a furanone. It seems likely. I normally really enjoy that kind of smell. It's the kind of smell that you get in other fragrances that maybe even use natural fenugreek extracts, so things like Chelsea Morning. I don't enjoy this smell in this fragrance. It doesn't smell quite right. There's that undertone to this fragrance that seems to be in a lot of other fragrances in this range, a kind of woody chemical kind of smell that really is throughout a lot of Who is Elijah's fragrances. This fragrance is also quite dry, but I don't really sense any kind of spiciness here. There is a warm woodiness to this, but also a slight pepperiness, and even something that makes me think of the smell of coins. There's a kind of metallic feeling smell in the background. The vanilla and caramel in this fragrance is really short-lived and lost very quickly. You're really left with that warm, woody, slightly metallic feel in the dry down. This fragrance even makes me think slightly of the smell of an unsmoked cigarette. I just didn't really enjoy this one. The longevity on me of this one was also quite poor. I had really high hopes for this one from the notes, and I feel very disappointed by it. I would not recommend this one, so that's Haze. So the final fragrance is called Ocean Eyes, and this is something I've smelt a billion times before. This is a well-trodden path. It's a soft, lemony citrus, even grapefruit or bergamot kind of citrus. Something soft really, alongside a foresty, green, sappy feel, and an ocean fresh musk. As this dries down, the citrus morphs it more into orange and it becomes denser. There's a warm, almost caramelised sweet woodiness in the dry down of this. I found this fragrance softened very quickly, and it very quickly also lost its freshness. I think if you're looking for an ocean fresh fragrance, this one is not it. It really was a woody and musky fragrance by the dry down with a slight orangey feel to it. So overall, Who is Elijah? These just weren't for me. I can't dress this up anyway. There's nothing here that really attracts me too much. My favourite was by far and away Rebel Rose, but I would say even that was just alike. It wasn't a fragrance that wowed me. I've smelt nicer, I think, rose and leather fragrances, and perhaps nicer violet and leather fragrances. But really, on the whole, that one wasn't bad. I didn't really enjoy any of the other fragrances in this collection. I've particularly struggled with how they dealt with fig, sandalwood and cedarwood. For some reason, those notes and how they use them seem to make me feel a little bit icky. They kind of turn my stomach slightly. There's a definite base material they're using in a lot of these fragrances I don't seem to get along with, and I guess that gives it a very distinctive house style. And if you do like one of these, you're potentially going to like a lot of these because they do share some similarities. But unfortunately for me, I don't particularly like whatever woody aroma chemical they're using, or what they're using for that fig sandalwood thing. I think the thing that shocked me about trying these out and looking at the notes that were listed for these fragrances is how similar the note profiles are to fragrances that are already on the market from other brands. I thought at the price point that Who is Elijah is, I was going to get original creations, and I don't feel like potentially I was getting that. I feel like I was getting potentially dupe fragrances that were playing on popular DNAs. So, for example, Baccarat Rouge, Le Labo Santal 33, and also replicas by The Fireplace, to just give a few examples. I did find some of these to be long-lasting. Others really had very short longevity, particularly Haze, I remember being quite short-lasting. But I think really for the price point of these, they don't excite me. They seem to be duping other fragrances. I expected a bit more, so I think this brand just isn't for me. So yeah, that's Who is Elijah. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, then please do press the like button, and please also consider subscribing. Please also let me know if you've had any experiences with the brand Who is Elijah, and also let me know if there's another fragrance in their collection that you feel that I should try. Have I misjudged this brand because I've picked the wrong fragrances? Let me know down below, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.